Good morning, good morning. How are you? Welcome to the Truly Myrtle podcast. I'm Libby, and it is a Thursday morning down here in New Zealand. It is time for my weekly podcast that beams out over the internet every Thursday morning live, and you can chat to me in the comments. If you've never met me before, I design knitting patterns. So we're going to talk about knitting today. We're actually going to talk about socks. And I also run, it's like an online club. Called Wardrobe Toolbox, and it's a place that you can come and learn how to make knitting that you love and garments that fit you. And the doors are only open twice a year. They've just closed, actually. So I don't know why I'm telling you right now, but they've just closed and they'll open again in March. But you can jump on the waiting list for that at wardrobetoolbox.com and read a little bit more about it. It is so much fun over there. There are lots and lots and lots and lots of members, and we do a lot of knitting over there. Hey everybody, it's so nice to see you. I can see comments coming in now. So I've got YouTubers here. Facebook's always a little bit slow. We go out live on YouTube and Facebook at the same time. So you can find me in both of those places as Truly Myrtle. And you can also get a little notification of when I'm going live, and you can choose which one of those to go to by clicking a button in my mini mag. And you can find that at trulymyrtle.com/mini mag. And you can sign up, and then I'll send you an email on Thursday mornings and I'll say, hey, I'm going to go live in about an hour, and then here I am, and you can click and come and join me. It is so nice to see you. Yes, Barbara, you've had a lot of wind too. We've had so much wind. I can't say, I'm not a big fan of wind, I have to say. I keep thinking there has to be some benefit to all this wind. I can't see it right now, but yeah, it's been really windy and cold and drizzly. We did have a beautiful day the other day though. It must have been at the weekend. It was a beautiful, beautiful day. Hi from Sydney, Virginia, 5 o'clock on a Wednesday. Excellent. You're onto my sock patterns, Louise. Good to hear it. It's chilly in Melbourne. Enjoying the weather. I do like it a bit colder, I have to say. I am actually quite enjoying that I'm not melting hot. There's a sense that spring is coming. And it's definitely a nudge warmer. But it did actually get to 24 degrees the other day. Well, at least in my car. It was at Celsius. It said 24. Now, whether that was totally accurate, I don't know outside, but it was really warm. And I thought, oh no, oh no, here we go. Oh, Rachel's without power for 48 hours. More bad weather to come. Oh my gosh. Yeah, crazy with all that wind. Amanda's hunkered down. Wow, you've got so much wind that they've told you to stay home. That's bizarre, Amanda. That is must be really windy. Oh well, you've got a lot of knitting I'm sure you could do. And Jenny's in Melbourne in the middle of getting kids off to school. Good luck, Jenny. I know you've had a holiday over there with the grandchildren. I hope you're enjoying yourself in Melbourne. It would be fun. Hi, Deborah from the Coromandel. There's Claire from Ashburton. It's so nice to see you all. It's searingly hot in Brisbane. Look, it's just crazy. Crazy days. Amanda's tying her trampoline down. Erica said, greeting from Port Moody. You're working on your Petra socks. Yay, lots of people are knitting the socks. Tamsin's knitting Jilly. And Winky Girls, I don't know what your name is, Winky Girls, but that's what you've come up as. You're going to have lots of storm in the Netherlands tomorrow with tons of rain. Hi, Leanne from Ottawa. And watching Celebrity Traders in the UK. I don't know what that is, Charlotte. But you're here now, so that's really good. Okie doke, and it's rainy in London. Look, we seem to be having, apart from Brisbane, who's the outlier here, we seem to be having fairly similar weather across the whole world right today. So that tells me it's good knitting weather, which is actually really good because I have been knitting up a storm. I can't show you what I've been knitting on. I will show you eventually. It's for my wardrobe toolboxes. I've been knitting up a storm this week, and that's been good. I'm nearly done. So, but what I thought we could talk about today, because we're still in Socktober, and I thought we could go through, you can still get, it's Mika. Oh, it's you. Okay, it's nice to see you, Winky Girls. Mika. You can still get my sock toolkit, and if you go to trulymyrtle.com, trulymyrtle.com/sock toolkit, one word, you can still get my sock toolkit. You can get that forever. And if you just pop your details in, it will be emailed to you. And there are 3 guides inside the toolkit, and you'll get them one day at a time. One over 3 days. One the first day, the second day, the third day. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. And so we've talked already a bit about the measuring, easy foot measuring. I think last week we went over about toe up versus cuff down, and the third one that you get in the series is called socks that fit and feel comfy. And I thought, let's have a little talk about some of that stuff today. I've got a couple of things. I've got a pile of yarn sitting in front of me, and I thought we'll just quickly talk about some of the mods you can make to a sock to make them fit you a bit better. But actually, we're going to talk a bit more about toes. I'll give you some ideas about how to get a good toe that fits you. And I thought we could talk about sock yarn. Just a little bit. I just grabbed a whole lot of sock yarn out of my stash, and I just thought we could just go over some of it, and then you could tell me what you think as well. And while you're there, if you feel like it, I can see some thumbs up. I always like seeing thumbs up. If you fancy giving me a thumbs up and you say, hey, I'm here and this is good, I'm enjoying myself so far, then you can give me a thumbs up. That's always really nice to do. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about the guide. So, you know, for my socks, I've told you already, I like a heel flap and gusset, and I don't mind whether I do it toe up or cuff down. I do both. A heel flap and gusset, I have determined, is the sock fit that I like. And I know there's lots of other ways to knit socks, but I like this way because I think it's lovely to modify. This area here is your gusset. And that is easy to modify, because the thing I find is that I need a bit of stretch through here, this section here, to fit comfortably around my foot. And I find this a nice, easy way to modify that so that it can fit my foot if it's, you know, I just know what's going to work now. And at least, even if I don't do any modifications, I find it so much more comfortable because I have some stretch through here. It all just fits nicely around my heel, and it seems to feel quite good. So you might find you don't really even need any modifications. What I've done in here is I've given you a little calculator, your foot ankle ratio. And I talked a couple of weeks ago about how in patterns we are expecting, and it's not always the case, but this is what the patterns are going to be expecting unless they say otherwise. They're expecting that your foot measurement, your measurement around here, is the same as your ankle measurement, which is also called the leg measurement. They're expecting that measurement, which typically it is the same. Very common for people to have the same measurement here and here, without thinking about bunions. Don't measure around your bunions, okay? Avoid bunions. And so those two measurements tend to be the same. Now, if you're not, then you're thinking, I don't know what to do about that. So I've given you a little calculator, and you can do some sums, work out what your foot circumference, I've told you here how to measure everything. Your foot circumference and your ankle circumference, which is really round your ankle bone, just above your ankle bone, and then around your foot, and you do a calculation and foot over ankle. And then I'll tell you, you know, whether your foot, by how much your foot is considered larger than your leg to worry about it. And once you've got that nailed, you might feel like you've got a bit of a difference, and it might come out and say, actually, do you know what? I don't know. Knitting stretches. I wouldn't be too panicky about that for you, depending on what the number you get when you do that calculation. So do that, and then you can work out if you actually want to make any changes to your socks. I'm just having a little bit of a look at your comments, and I can see that you are chatting to each other, which is always nice. Oh yay, you've just blocked your striped easy breezy. So that's the pattern that we have inside Wardrobe Toolbox that everybody gets when they join from our Sweater Fit Plus module. Can't wait to wear it in Southern California. And halfway through, Rita, oh yeah, you're coming to New Zealand next month, Sue. Oh, you're going to have fun. A good month to come. It's my birthday month. Spring, strawberries, November. It's a good month. And Bernadette's got her pound back on, which is good to hear. Oh, yay, Donna, you're getting this sock, Pippi sock. Say Little Hen, Sarah, in Queensland, has got sock kits for this sock. So if you're in Australia and you want a printed pattern like this, these cool little printed patterns that I have, that are like little booklets. If you want one of those and yarn to go with it, Say Little Hen has got kits that will work for your socks. Fun as. Where did I get my sock forms from, and what are my size? Someone actually gave them to me years ago when I was at a market. But I have made some, Mr. Myrtle made me some, where I just what I did was I laid a sock out on some plywood and I drew round it, and he cut it out for me with a jigsaw, and then I just sanded it down. And those are up there, and I have used those. They're really fine, but they're my size that way. These ones were given to me, and they've got the holes through, which probably helps everything dry a little bit easier. And these are a size 37 to 39, which I'm a 38 shoe, a European size, so that's perfect for me. And but I don't, it's called Knit Bits, but you can get them all over the place. It's very thin, light ply. Mine are a bit thicker ply, but they'd still work perfectly well. So you could have a go at making them yourself. When we moved into this house, it's people were farming here before us, and they'd left in the cupboard in the laundry a large sized metal sock blockers, and they were just wire, like a really thick wire in the shape of a sock. And I've got those in my cupboard over here, and I have they're good for men's socks. They're way too big for my socks, but better for a man's sock. So yes, just hunt around for sock blockers and see what you can find online, or markets. Hopefully people are making them at markets. Oh, Louise, you can't wait to get into Wardrobe Toolbox. Oh, good. Well, I'll send you a few emails if you're on the waiting list between now and then. And keep your eyes peeled. It'll be March that we're open the doors again. It's much cooler in Sydney. You're 38 degrees yesterday, Becky. Oh my goodness gracious, that is so warm. I can't be dealing with that sort of heat. It's too hot for me to stay inside. Okay, so I was talking about measuring between your ankle and your foot and working out whether or not you want to make any changes. Now, if we're working from the top, what you can do, because you want to be increasing, a lot of people are going to find that they, well, I don't know which one is the more common actually. I can't remember now whether your ankle's wider than your foot. Could be that your ankle's wider than your foot, but it doesn't have to be the case. But basically you want to change stitch count from here and here. So you want the stitch count to be different over the ankle than it is the foot. And it all happens in here. And of course, if you've got a really high instep, then you'll want your gusset to be taller as well before you reduce right down. So if you're working from the top down, it all hinges off this heel, and when you're picking up stitches around the heel, that gives you the height of your gusset. See, that's your gusset here. Actually, these aren't even top down. I'm going to show you a pair that is top down so that you can see. Look, I like these ones. These are pretty. Put these on my blocker and see. These are Maggie socks, also DK. So if you want to go knitting from the top. All right, so you can see when you're knitting from the top down, you knit this heel, and the depth of that heel determines your gusset through here. And that area there you can make taller or shorter depending on the height of your instep. And then you turn the heel at the bottom down here, and then you shoot off down into the foot, and you decrease away all these stitches down this line. You're decreasing them away to get to the stitch count you want at the foot. So if you want more stitches at the foot, don't decrease so many stitches. Just leave more on your needles as you're going down. But don't forget, you want to make it an odd number or an even number depending on what your pattern calls for. Keep it in the same, stay odd or stay even, so that when you get to the toe, everything can work out okay. You might have to do a bit of jiggery pokery at the bottom to get your toe to work. But you can just knit your heel longer, and you can reduce more or less to get to the right stitch count. And when you're working from the bottom up, it's a similar thing, because you're working up the foot and then you start increasing here to get up to the most stitches you have at the top of the gusset. So if you want more stitches at the top of the gusset, or you've got less stitches here and you need to get more so that you end up with more up here, then start increasing a little bit further back. You're going to need to know your row count for this one, but you can work that out as you go. So that if you say, okay, I need 4 more stitches, that's going to give me quite a bit more room in my foot, then in my leg, then I'm going to start, if you're increasing every second round, you're going to have to start enough rounds back to fit in all of those increases. And so you work out the length that that's going to take, and then you don't knit that much length, because you knit to length for a foot and then you stop when you start your increases for the gusset and off you go. So you just need to make sure that you're not knitting too long in the foot, that you can start your gusset in the right place. So you just pull it. It's hard because everything goes out of focus. You just pull it back slightly down here. And likewise, if you don't need it to be so big at the top, if you've started with a bigger foot and you don't need it, if you started with a smaller foot, hang on, what am I saying? If you started with a bigger foot and you don't need it to be so big at the top, then you don't need to do so many increases up here. So you can just start further up and you just keep knitting before you start your gusset. But knowing your row count is going to help. So figure out what your row count is and then work out how many rows is that going to take. All right, I'll just knock that off the length that I have to knit in order to start my gusset. So I've given you I've just sort of walked you through it a little bit about how to do it in the guide, and I think it's really, really doable, and it once you start, you'll get a sense of how to do it. I think it sometimes can be a matter of having it on your needles, and then things kind of click into place. Oh, you've knit a sock in alpaca yarn with 20% nylon. Oh, that sounds really soft. You've said it is soft, Mika. That sounds delicious. Oh, good. Katie suggested a brand of sock blockers. Bry Spun brand has lovely sock blockers in small, medium, and large. The metal outline type that socks dry beautifully fast. They're based in Oregon in the US. Oh, good. Thanks, Katie. Melanie says, my ankle is bigger than my foot, so I have to work it out when I actually knit some socks. Yeah, so you could decide, Melanie, if you do a toe up or a top down, because you just need to know that you need more stitches at the top than in the foot. So it depends whether or not you want to decrease more before you get to the toe, or you want to start your increases earlier for your foot when you're working your way up, just so you can get more increases in. Because you're going to have to decrease all the way up the back of the heel. Either that or you have a shorter heel, but if you've got a reasonable instep, you don't want to shorten that heel by doing not enough decreases here. You might want to still have a longish heel. So you'll have to inspect your foot and work out what kind of lengths. If you've got a sock that fits you, maybe have a go at measuring different parts of it and seeing how long they are so you can compare. I use a sock ruler and I now know just how far to knit up on toe up before starting the gusset increases. My number is 5 inches. Oh, that's a good idea. So this is a sock ruler. Mine's in centimetres. You can get them in inches and centimetres. And if you're knitting a toe up sock, what you can do, if I put this one on, you'll be able to see. What you do is you slip your toe on. We'll pretend I've only got a toe, okay? You slip your sock on like that. And then you can look on the tape, on the measurement, like I've started my increases here. So you can look on the tape measure when you get to the length that you need to get to knit your, to begin your gusset. These are really useful. Someone gave me this as well, which is very kind of them. But up the middle here, you'll see there's a tape measure that goes up the middle. So you just know to stop at a certain point when you've knitted enough. Yeah, I think that's be very, very handy, actually, if you want. This one was from Donnybrook. Oh, there we go. Donnybrook Designs. This is a New Zealand one. But I've seen these all over the shop, and you can get them in inches and in centimetres. And once you know how long to make your socks before you start your gusset, you can just make a little line on it. And you know that that's the point that you start your gusset and off you go. Because generally you're going to be using much the same yarn, aren't you? Sock yarn. So I'll show you a bit of sock yarn that I've got here, because I thought, gosh, there's so much variety in sock yarn, and I think you just go on an adventure, a sock yarn adventure. I have got a huge basket of yarn up above me full of sock yarn, and I just grabbed some out, and some of this is really old, and I keep thinking, like this woman had died, I think about 15 years ago, and this is called rhubarb. This rhubarb stalks this yarn, and I've always thought it was so cool. I love it, and I just haven't been able to make anything out of it yet, because I just thought it's just so pretty. I've got another one of hers as well. So there's all sorts of colourful ones you can get. I think they just need a subtle little pattern in this one. And this is 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon. It's a classic sock yarn. It's actually slightly finer. It's 423 meters for 100 grams. So these are nice fine socks. They would be lovely. Rhubarb stalks. And I was going to just show you something when I was thinking about that. Oh yes, I thought actually for something like that where you have a bit of a color change, this is another one which has also got lots and lots of different colors in it, these really variegated ones. This is a Knit Picks one, Muse and Fingering Weight from Knit Picks, and it's 75% superwash, 25% nylon, so similar sort of blend. And this one is 423 yards per 100 grams, so it's fractionally thicker. But look at all the colors in that, so many colors. We had a masterclass in Wardrobe Toolbox, which those of you who are in there, go back and have a look at it. It's so good, with Sarah from Bombed Yarns in Australia. She's a dyer, and she talked to us all about how to read your skeins and looking to see how long the color strips are and the pops of color and how that's going to turn out. So this one, it's got really long long color changes. It's going to be quite stripy, this one, because the color changes are just super long before they change. So I think you're going to find that yarn is a really, really stripy yarn. Whereas this other one I've got, well, actually let's undo it and have a look. The rhubarb one, it's just so pretty, the rhubarb one. It's really, I loved this dyer's yarn. She had just such fabulous yarn. Anyway, this one, it has shorter color changes in it. Has sort of more blotchy color. Trying to see now. It's not as much as of the other color. Here's a green. How long would that green be? Oh no, they're reasonably long. Oh, they're probably, it's probably about 3 stitches long, 3 or 4 stitches. So what's going to happen with that one is we're going to have these blops of green that come through on an overall pinky base, with these little splotches of green. That's how it's going to turn out in this yarn. So even without swatching it, you start to get a feel of, okay, I wonder, yeah, she's taking an indefinite hiatus. Yeah, you get a sense of what that color is going to do as you're knitting it. And I think that can be quite helpful, but without having to undo your skein and work it all out. Soft Like Kittens is taking an indefinite hiatus. I think she's been taking that for 10 years. So maybe not quite so long, but I really did enjoy her colors. She's got such pretty, she was a master of the color chemistry. So those ones where you have, oh, here's another one. So here's a third one, and lovely. I ordered some fiber from Marina the other day from Strawberry Patches, Marina at Strawberry Patches, and she popped this in because she knew it was my Socktober, and she said, I know you like blue. And this is a sock merino 4-ply, 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon. So you can see we've still got all this nylon, but it's in varying amounts. This is really soft and squishy. This yarn is a lot less tightly twisted than the others. I mean, it's got a reasonable twist, but it's got so much bounce to it, this yarn. So I'm thinking that something squishy, this would be just absolutely lovely for something squishy. This colorway is called Freeze Spell. Reminds me of something out of those movies with the princesses and the ice, which I actually never ever watched. I have an aversion to cartoon movies, but my girls, I think, eventually got round to watching those movies. Frozen, I think it was called, and I never watched it. I don't think I could do that. So anyway, it reminds me of something out of that. So this yarn, if we look at this yarn a little bit more closely, we can see it has, like, it's got this lovely changeable background. Look, it's got some splotches of brown, blue, darker blue, and then lights. And I think when you're knitting that, see, it's got these little short changes in here. So some of these, well, first of all, the obvious ones are the very dark. See, it's got these very dark blotches. That's one stitch. Really just one stitch here and there will pop up in a darker color, but overall you're going to have short color changes, so short blotches of the other color. So I think altogether it will blend. The colors behind that pale blue will blend behind, and you'll have that bop, 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 bop of color. So I think overall what that means is when you're thinking about what to use these ones for, because they're not solids, what you would use them for is, I'm going to show you some ideas. The one that is quite changeable, this one with these long stripes and color changes, well, you've got a couple of options. You've got any endless options. You could just do a plain stockinette sock, or you could do something like one of my testers did, and you could do something like this Petra sock in something like this, because the color changes should cover a reasonable section, and you might get two colors in a little wedge section here, or you might get just one, but you should get it changing all the way through. And I think you wouldn't lose the stitch pattern so much because the color changes are much longer. And likewise, you could use it as a background color in something like this with a solid over the top, because your background color could be quite changeable. And as long as your color over the top was sufficiently different from all of the colors in here, so maybe you go for a black or something like that, or a white, whatever it is, it's something quite different, yellow, then this, or green, like a frog green, this would stand out against a background of color changes all the way through. It would actually look quite funky, I think, to have something like that all the way through. That's the Diva sock. But something like this, where you have lots of different pop of color, and it wasn't necessarily stripy, because the stitches are probably only about 4 stitches or 5 stitches, we thought, maybe, in that lighter green against a sea of red. Well, this would work. I think a sock like this, my footsie sock, and it's got so much texture that I think overall in the sea of green, you'd have these little stitches would pop out a lightness against the red in the texture of that sock. So I just used a semi-solid for this, but you could play around with the colors. You really could. Now, you could try it with something like this, but my worry is maybe it would just get overall too busy. It would be up to you. How busy do you like your things? I do like a bit of busy, but some of you might just be like, give me more busy. And in that case, maybe this would be perfectly fine, and you might go for a couple of colors, or you might have one color per one of these little stripes, or maybe it would be over 2 of the stripes. I'm not sure, looking at the yarn, how it would work out for your sock, but it would be busy because of the pattern as well. You might lose a bit of the pattern in that case. But this one, this would be suitable for so many, because the pops of color are just so tiny. So I think you could knit pretty much anything. And actually, a sock like that is this one. And this has actually got the fractionally longer colorway, the fractionally longer stripes, can you see? With these little blops of gold that pop up against Jilly. But it works so well because the background is more or less the same color. So maybe you could use this. I think this is much busier overall though. You can see it more clearly on the back. And you have these little pops of color that pop up through. That would be perfect. That would work beautifully well. It would add a layer of interest to this sock, like this one has, where overall it's pretty, but you can see it's got quite a lot of colors happening. Well, a couple of colors happening in there, popping against a sort of semi-solid background. So that one could work really well. Of course, you can use them in stripes, and you go back to that idea of my Timely cardigan, where we used a really variegated yarn against a semi-solid or solid yarn to create such interesting stripes. So anywhere you've got stripes, of course, throw in some of those really variegated colors. Yeah, so I think that those are ways of, those are more interesting, pretty speckly kind of yarns. Okay, yeah, love the rhubarb. You'll love the rhubarb. Okay, I'm just having a look. Amanda loves an 85 merino 15% nylon. It's lovely to wear, high twist, more breathable than a standard sock yarn. Oh, that's interesting. The blue is gorgeous, isn't it? It is very, very pretty. You have happy feet, I think, with those on. You're knitting my footsie socks, these blue ones. with a Mrs. Peacock's self-striping yarn. So this is Mrs. Peacock's original. I used her yarn, and you're using a self-striping, and the color changes are 4 rows, which work perfectly for the 4-row repeat. Good idea. So that's a really good idea, is to embrace the color change. And so you'll see the pattern come through on the colors, and it won't be too lost. When you turn the heel with stripy yarn, it annoys me. So with my last pair, I knitted the heel with the other end of the ball and went back to the end I was knitting for the leg, and it continued the colour without any problem. Oh, good idea. That's a really good idea. And you could do things like this. So like for this yarn, I had the 2 colours going, and then I just went to the solid colour for the heel and the toe. So you could pull in another yarn if you want. If you've got like lots going on in the sock, colour, pull out a colour and just do a solid for the heels and toes. You can get minis to do that as well. Hi from Adelaide. Oh yeah, you've got oh excellent. Rachel at Goodwool Hunting has got the yarn I used for this sock, Pippi, the Coop Knits. You've got 4-ply and DK on the way. Brilliant, Rachel. So that is for this sock here. I use Coop Knits. This is the DK version. It is lovely yarn. I really enjoy knitting with it. It's so soft. It would make a nice jumper too. I love using those mixed colours with the plain to do helical knitting. It really mutes and blends beautifully. Yeah, so you're just having that all the way around. Change. I've seen sock wool being sold with Lincoln wool rather than nylon. How well does it wear in comparison? I thought we'd talk about that in a minute. Lincoln wool will be a strong wool, and so probably it helps. And let's just go through some of these, and then we'll come back to that about what we could do if we want to use a pure wool. So some of the other ones I've got, look, I've got other ones that have been in my stash for a long time. I've got things like this. This is Circus Tonic. Now that is a grey skein, but they make great socks for people that are nervous about embracing a lot of colour on their feet. So in a way it could be quite good gift knitting, this one too. 80% Australian superwash merino, 20% nylon, and this one's called House Crow, which is a fabulous name. It's from Circus Tonic. Again, it's just that lovely soft yarn. It stands up to a lot of wear, and she has those, it's a semi-solid, but she has those shorter pops of slightly darker through it. I don't know if you're going to be able to see so well, but it is a variegated overall, and so it's more along the lines of, it's actually more along the lines of these, where you have, this is the Dreamfire DK. It's just beautiful, lovely round yarn, and you can see it changes. There's a darker purples and lighter purples, and all of these actually are similar, where they have this fading in and out of the intensity of the colour. I did 3 socks in this yarn, fading in and out of that colour. So overall it looks to be semi-solid, but it's got depth to it. It introduces a lovely layer to that sock, and that's what this would do as well. It makes it just an interesting layer with those changes of colour. It's definitely not a solid. If you compare it to something like this is a solid, really. I mean, it has some tiny colour changes in it, but overall it's more of a solid look. This is Louie and Lola from Australia. Lola 4-ply socks, 75% Australian merino, 25% nylon, Little Blue Lake. It's a beautiful, soft yarn. It buffs up. You can see it's been in my stash a while, and it's got a bit buffed up. It's going to pill. But it's much, you consider just the difference between having these pops that come through and something a lot more solid. It's even more solid than this one, but it does have just some slight colour change because it's hand dyed. I can see in here there's a little bit of a slither of something darker happening, but it's ever so slight, really. And this is in a similar vein. This is also this is more of a semi-solid, and this is Potion Yarns, and it's her Foxy sock. I adore this colour. 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, and it's 400 yards or 366. But look at the twist on that. Absolutely beautiful twist in the yarn. So that adds another dimension to it as well. So we have the colour, this just glorious green with that twist. It's got a shot with black. And so when you're starting to think about how to accentuate something like that, I'd go for something that has a bit of a pattern in it. So that things like this, because with this, it's going to be darker, but the shadowing will work really well in the cables. I think this is actually not a DK, it's a fingering. But what have I got? I mean, you could even have a play and with something like this, because this natural shadowing in the yarn will play well to this. And same with that. We've got the natural shadowing that happens in the ribbing and also through the patterning on the front. Less so in that one. And if you pull in a darker one that really enjoys a very dark and light and that play of colour, which already is playing with colour, the lights and darks, I think that would work pretty well for that kind of thing. And then what else have I got? We've got all different kinds of fibres in here. So I have got one. This is 55% fine merino wool. All of those so far have been merino, haven't they? We haven't had anything different. We've had merino nylons. That's what you're going to get a lot of. This is Inca spun. I got this at the yarn shop. Such a pretty colour. It's ever so slightly variegated. It's this sort of different colour, slightly different colours are spun together in this plies. And this one is, what does it say? Where did I just see that before? 55% superfine merino, 20% alpaca, 25% nylon. So it's starting to get, look, you can see the halo on it. The softness is just heavenly. And I used a yarn that was similar to that for this one. The couple that I did here. The footsie sock. And so you can, not footsie, love bugs. And so this has, look, you can see the halo on it. It's soft and squishy and warm and delicious. A bit like what you were talking about, I think Mika was saying. And so that's going to give you more of that look where you're going to move away from that crispness and start tiptoeing into a little bit of that woolly, cozy, soft, slightly muted look to it all. So it's just scrummy. Now, if you want to take that even further, this one is alpaca sock yarn. And this one has got 70% alpaca, 30% nylon. And I got it at the yarn shop as well. This is called Socks. Easy wash, alpaca sock yarn. And it's a little bit shorter as well, 387 metres. They're all in the similar range. It's my postie. You can hear my postie. But look at that. The halo on that is extraordinary. The softness is, it's kitten soft. So if you've got someone that antsy-pantsies about their socks on their feet and they want things that don't scratch, and you've got to make sure that they're okay with alpaca. But that yarn would be divine. Now, you will not get the crispness of this. You will lose that crispness of these stitches and this kind of thing. You'll lose any roundedness, any crispness. And you will be this. I haven't got any in a pure alpaca. This is as close as I get. It will start to become more muted, but even more muted to the max with this kind of thing. So you can see how you can push it. You can push things in different directions. And if you compare those two together, the crispness of that one and just the glow on that one compared to that one, which is going to be softer, muted, furry, and all of those things. So you can push it off in that direction. And then I've got this one, which I know Ruth, I haven't used it. Ruth has used this and loves this. And we're hoping Rachel's going to get some in. This Regia Cotton Beach. So Regia, this has got in it 72% cotton, 18% polyamide, 10% polyester. Ruth said it is absolutely lovely to wear. She made her pair of socks out of this a little bit smaller than her regular socks because cotton has a tendency to stretch. And then when she washes it, goes back to shape. But she said her feet do not get hot. So she wears these under her sneakers when she goes for a walk and they do not get hot. She just feels just lovely, lovely, lovely socks. She's so impressed with it. So if you can get hold of this, I don't know where you get this now. This seems to have been a one-off here in New Zealand for a while, and I'm not sure if they're still making it. But if they are, Rachel, at Goodwill Hunting, you should get some because I think we can encourage people to use this. I think they would like it. The stitch definition would be great. Ruth made these socks with it. Petra little socks. And she just made them a bit shorty, and they just slip into her sneakers. And of course the stitch definition is lovely in this. and they've got a nice amount of stretch in them. And yeah, she really enjoyed it. So we're still using the nylons then, aren't we? And we're still thinking about strengthening it with the synthetic fiber, but we've gone from merinos, we've talked about a bit of alpaca, and we've pulled in now thinking about cotton and really going for it with our cottons. And of course you can do bamboo. There are bamboos in there as well. There's all sorts of different wools, BFLs and sock yarns and all sorts of things. I just haven't got any of those with me today. And then finally, thinking about just stuff that I've got here, you can of course spin your own. And I have got from Union Fibre, I have got an 80-20 superwash Corriedale and nylon. And so this already has nylon in it. So look at the colours in that. It's just so yummy. So this, depending on how you spun it, of course, you could do whatever you want to create any of those colourful looks I showed you before. You could have splotches of colour, you could have barber poling, you could have, you separate all the colours so you have longer stripes, shorter, you could do what you want. That's the beauty of the spinning. But the colours of that are so lovely. And it's a Corriedale. That's a lovely yarn. It's not quite as soft, but it's got good bounce to it, Corriedale. It's still soft. It's not that it's not soft. It's lovely. And a Corriedale is lovely to spin. I find it lovely to spin. And it holds itself together, bouncy, and then it's got also the nylon in it for strength. So that's another option if you want to stay with those synthetics, is to use something like that. Now, if you're wanting to move away from the synthetics and you think, I'd like to try something else, then mohair is strong, but of course it's woolly. And silk is strong, but of course it has no recovery, so it's going to just have a bit of give to it. But you could add a fine thread of those into your yarn, hold it with those yarns, find a yarn that has something like that in it, and they would add a little bit of strength. Someone mentioned before about the long wool, and I think those strong, they're strong. Hang on, what was it? What was the name of the one? It was a blah 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 blah. I just saw it before. It's gone out of my head. Lincoln. Yeah, Lincoln. I'm pretty sure Lincoln's a strong wool, and so it's I would get my sheet book out. We could have a read about Lincoln. Read up about Lincoln. My thought is it's a strong wool, and so it will be stronger. It probably has, I think it's longer, much longer staple, isn't it, a Lincoln? And so it's going to hold everything together quite well. You see, once upon a time, people had no nylon, obviously. And I've told you before that they would make their socks fractionally longer, or the same length as their foot at least, so that when you wore it and you moved the sock moved around in your foot, under your foot in your shoe, it would felt. And so over time, no superwash, over time you'd have a felted sock, which would be incredibly strong, and that's a good way of doing it if you want that. Of course, I think you have that, you probably couldn't really curl up your toes in quite the same way. It doesn't have that same little suppleness. It would lose the suppleness to the sock, but it would certainly be good for strength. So if you're keen to move towards a more natural fibre, then yeah, investigate those strong wools, the mohairs, the silks, or just making your socks a little bit longer. And don't go for something like a single spun, uber soft baby kid something. Don't go for that. Go for a Romney or a something that has a little bit more guts to it, so that it isn't quite as unforgiving about wear, so that you can actually enjoy it. Of course, for things like these socks, I've said to you, for the flowers at the top, I wouldn't be too panicky about using a sock wool or a nylon or anything too strong for the flowers at the top. They're not going to get the same amount of wear as your sock does at the bottom. If you want to just wear you have a reasonably strong wool for most of your sock, but you want to just add a bit of strengthness. You want to add a bit of strength. I had a look online. You can add in just a bit of thread into various areas, but not your whole sock. So you might decide that your heel, you'll know where you wear your socks, might be down the back of the heel, it might be under your foot, could be around the ball of your toe, where you tend to wear out the top of your toe. If your toe pops up like that, you might wear out there. Then you can get this, I found this online, reinforcement and darning thread for socks. And this is made by Lang Yarns. I found this at Knit and Stitch, which is a yarn shop here in New Zealand. $4. And you just get this little thread. here we go. I wrote it, put it on the back. Product information. It's used for knitting in together with sock yarns on heels and toes to reinforce and strengthen high wear areas for customized handmade socks. Why not use it for darning worn out elbows on well-loved sweaters as well? Could do that. It's 75% virgin wool, 18% nylon, 7% acrylic, and it's 5 grams, about 39 meters. So you just hold that very fine yarn with your other yarn in those high strength areas. It is nylon in it, but you don't have to use it through the whole sock. So I thought, well, that's actually quite a good option too for people if they're wanting to play around. But I know there are people who have done quite a lot of looking at using natural yarn for socks. I don't know if they mentioned it any of those sock books that Lina put out, the 52 weeks of socks. Does anyone know if they have stuff about using different fibers? But if that is of interest to you and you don't have a stash full of sock yarn you want to use up, then yeah, that's probably a good thing to start reading up about a bit more. I haven't done it myself, so I made Mr. Myrtle a pair of socks with some silk in it, but I did find that they stretch out a bit, and so I probably needed to tighten up my gauge. It was many years ago, but they probably could do with tightening up my gauge so there's less give in the sock itself, because the silk is going to give in that sock. Okay. Dreamfire DK, that's the one, this beautiful yarn I used here with these lovely colour changes, and I use it for those 3 DK socks. Should be back in stock very soon. They sold out, but a new shipment came in this week. Yay, so Vince is dying up a storm. It's still time to knock out a pair of DK socks for October. Oh, totally. We've got another whole week after this. So I think you can definitely knock out a pair of DK socks, whether it's any of those ones or the little Pippi socks, which have been the most popular actually of my new ones, of these 3 new ones. A lot of you are getting all of them, and but these ones have been, because I think they're fast and they're so cute, they have been, I think, the most popular of the 3 pairs of socks. So those Diva ones are pretty popular as well, and then little Petra. Yeah, everyone's got their favorites, haven't they? Different things. Okay, I was wondering how you measure your gauge when you're knitting footsie pattern. How do you count the stitches? Well, you know how many stitches are in a repeat. So just count from the side of one repeat. I would count in repeats, and I would count the number of blops or the number of slip stitches in that little repeat. See how it's got the slip stitch? Count from one to the other, and you know how many stitches are in between, because you know the length of the repeat. I think it's like a 4-stitch repeat, 3-stitch repeat, I can't remember. But you know, I would do it like that. Look for a visual cue to count across, and so you're counting repeats rather than individual stitches. And in that case, count the number of repeats and work out how wide their repeats are, rather than trying to stay in a 4-inch or 10 centimeter square. And once you've worked out how many repeats, you know, you give yourself a decent number of repeats, measure it, and then use that full measurement to work out what each repeat, what each stitch is. You know how many stitches, how wide the stitches are. You sort of reverse engineer it rather than trying to stick to your 10 centimeters or 4 inches. Okay. Oh yes, Amanda gave her sock yarn away. This cotton one. Yeah, I'm not going to give mine away. I'm going to hold on to that. We got them as a free gift, I think, at Wool and Gather, didn't we? Socks Easy Wash Alpaca makes the softest sock. That's this one. Softest socks, Beck says. Beautiful. I got that to make a gift pair of socks, actually. I thought they'd make nice socks for someone else. You would chain ply this, says Amanda. It would give you lovely, beautiful, long colour runs. Yeah, you could actually, to have lovely, long colour runs. I think it would be so pretty barber poled as well, though, wouldn't it? All those colours against each other. I don't know. I haven't done any spinning for ages. I need to go and do that. Lincoln is apparently part of the English long wool family with a staple length between 7 and 10 inches, according to the Fleece and Fibre source book. Yay, Katie. That's the book I have. Good. They call it Lincoln, straight up Lincoln long wool. Yeah, that's why I was thinking long wool. I got my words all confused, and you said Lincoln. Someone said Lincoln. But that is my feeling. It's long. It is. I thought it was a long staple, and I think they use Lincoln in carpets. It probably has a super high micron count comparative to your fine merinos, probably. Why do some patterns have a knit front and back instead of the lean increases? I don't know, Lindley. Do you mean in general or in a certain place? Tell me where you mean. Because there'll be also different reasons people do different increases. Some yarns give a small spool of that fine thread with the yarn. Also, sometimes you can find sock yarn with cotton in overseas. Okay, Helen. So that's good to know. So if people overseas know where to get some cotton-based yarn, especially that Regia one, because apparently it was a particularly nice one, can you put it in the hangout so other people can see it? I like the idea of having ribbing down the back of a sock. If modifying a stocking stitch pattern to ribbing, do I need to change the number of stitches or will it balance out? You'll need to think about your stitch count, because you can have ribbing all the way down the back, but what happens is when let's say you start from the top, your ribbing around is fine. So if it's ribbed all the way around or even just at the back, but when you come to split your heel and pick up again for your down the heel and then move into the front of the sock, you just want there to be a balance, and so you need to know you've got enough stitches for your ribbing and a bit extra on one side to create the balance. So I would draw it before you start, and you can jiggle your stitch count at the beginning so that works out better at the end for this part here. You just want to create balance, because you can see for this one the sock, see how it flowed down it's the same on both sides. That's the kind of thing you're looking out for, just to create balance in your sock. If you don't care about balance, don't worry about it, but a lot of us do. But you could just jiggle your sock pattern around as well, so you split, and you might have a different number at the back than you do at the front. I have some sock yarn with a high percentage of cotton in overseas, but I haven't used it, so I don't know how it would wear. Yeah, okay, Helen, I'm not sure. Well, so far so good with Ruth's ones. I made your love bugs and they're beautiful to wear. It was through Sarah's monthly sock club. Oh, that's neat, Janet. Nice to hear. So Sarah, I think she must have a couple of months left in her sock club at Bombed Yarns. So go and have a little look, everyone who's curious to join that. Sometimes the knit front and back is a design feature, but you can generally swap increases as something you like. Yeah. Look, there's all different increases. There's lifted increases, and there's left-leaning and right-leaning increases, and there's knit front, modified knit front and back, so you don't really see the little bump that's caused at the front of the knit front and back, and there's purl front and backs. There's so many different ways of increases. Sometimes I use a knit front and back on the first row of a sweater after I've cast on, because unless I've done a long tail cast on, there's nothing to lift from below. And if I've done a cable cast on, say at the top of a raglan, there's nothing then to lift up from underneath, so you begin to get into a bit of a muddle. And so I'll use a knit front and back. And also it's just so tiny you don't see it. On some of my cardigans, I've used knit front and back all the way down a raglan line, and it creates a little feature as you go. But in so many places I use a left-leaning, right-leaning, and even when you use left-leaning and right-leaning, you can lean some left and some right, depending on what look you want. And you can swap out anything you want. Just remember that if you're doing knit front and back, you need to knit into that stitch. It's using the stitch, so you need a stitch. If you're going to use a lifted increase or a make one right, make one left, or a make one, just a backwards loop, then it's between a stitch. So you're not using that stitch. So when you're having to increase every X rows, just check what this stitch is. Just check what the stitch count is. So if it's a knit 4 knit front and back, and you're going to do a make one, which is in between a stitch, not using a stitch, then you're going to need to knit 5, because you're actually going to use, or knit, you can do a knit 5, because you're using that stitch as part of the increase for the knit front and back. It's just little things like that. The more you do, the more you know. 2 months to go and you've kept up. It's a wonderful collection. Oh, that's so nice to hear, Janet. It was a really good idea of Sarah's. And it's a nice feature on Timely, says Amanda, the knit front and backs down the front. It is. It's a good one. I've run out of time. I wanted to talk to you about toes. I'm actually going to save that till next week. I went through and I printed off some things from Wardrobe Toolbox to show you. And I'm going to do it next week, I think, because I've got to nearly an hour and we'll go on for another half an hour if I start that. So I'll save that for next week. For those of you inside Wardrobe Toolbox, we've got a lesson. If you go to your search page and you put in toes, you will come up with it's pretty good actually. There's a good lesson. I just had a look at it this morning. There's a lesson all about toes and toe lengths and how to make adjustments. And I give you, for toe up toes, 3 different options for casting on. I didn't even remember I'd done that. 3 different options. There's the Judy's Magic cast on, which is the one I put in my patterns. There is the Turkish cast on, which is an easy one. And then there's another one, another third cast on. I've given you 3 different ideas. I've talked about toes. And I've talked about customizing toes to fit your foot. I've talked about the 4 sort of base ideas for toe modifications or toe shapes. And then I've got a video walking you through how to do it. And I took a couple of screenshots from the video so that I can just give you a bit of an overview here on the podcast. But for those of you in Wardrobe Toolbox, oh my gosh, go and watch that. You'll really like it, I think, if you're wanting to play with your toes. I will come back and talk about that next week, and I also thought we could talk a little bit about mending our socks, blocking our socks, and that will be wrapping up our Socktober month of Socktober. And it's been really fun having a deep dive into socks. I've enjoyed it a lot actually, and I think I'm going to come back and do some more socks for you next year. I'll dot them through. And but you can still grab the sock toolkit. Go to trulyMyrtle.com/sock toolkit. One word, sock toolkit, and you'll get these 3 handouts, which I think you'll find handy, just to pop in your knitting toolkit, and then you can refer back to those when you're measuring and working out mods and things like that. What am I wearing? I'm wearing my handmade skirt underneath. This is my pretty skirt because I need cool legs, so I've got a summery skirt on, which is a flouncy skirt, which is called I can't remember the brand of the pattern. I made it at the beginning of this year, I think. When did I make it? I think it was the beginning of this year. Anyway, I made a skirt. I'm wearing that. And then over the top, I have Tui. This is my sweatshirt. I love these sweatshirts. I'm really feeling the need for more of these spring garments. And we had a fantastic masterclass, such an inspiring masterclass last night on Wardrobe Toolbox with Daphne from the Fibre Company. And I've got some of her yarn. I just bought it the other day to do some more of these spring weight tops, mid-season tops. And this one is Tui. I've got 2 in this yarn, which you can't get anymore. And it's from Blacker Yarns. It's called Lioness. They're 4-ply. And it's 50% Falkland Merino and 50% linen. Oh my gosh, it's so nice to wear because it's not too... Well, it feels sort of linen-y and woolish. So it's a drop shoulder. It just has really simple little details. That detail just runs all the way down the side. See here? Just runs down the sides, and it's got a high-low hem and a simple neckline, nice drop shoulders, and then it's got it's sort of got slightly, if I yank them up, it's got slightly sort of bracelet length sleeves and a contrast turned over hem, a cuff, and the same at the hem. The contrast, I turned it over and sewed it up, so it just adds a little bit of something into it. 2026 will be my dive into socks, so tucking this away for them. I just want to do all the knitting. Oh, Janice, it might be you and me both. I have got so many things I want to make. It's actually a little bit out of control. I have so many things, although I'm trying to get ahead on some of my Wardrobe Toolbox knits at the moment, because I always have these deadlines. Every 2 months we get a new pattern inside Wardrobe Toolbox, so I'm constantly chasing my tail and working to deadlines, and I'm trying to get a little bit ahead. So far I'm not ahead, but I will try. So between now and Christmas, my plan is to do some more of those, and then I have some ideas for you for next year. Got quite a few ideas for you for next year actually, so I need to get my rattle my dags, as they say. I need to get myself cracking and really get into it. Lots of knitting. Anyway, don't we all just love knitting? So that's good. No pressure. Yeah, no pressure. I'm just going to enjoy it. Just going to enjoy all the knitting. Morris and Sons in Sydney have a range of Regia cotton sock yarn. Joe, you are a lifesaver. Okay, so cotton sock yarn from Regia. Have a look at Morris and Sons in Sydney for those of us at this end of the world, and there might be something there. Okie doke, I will see you same time, same place next week for more chit chat. We're going to talk about toes and we're going to talk about socks, and you can, I was going to say you can still get my sock toolkit if you want to do that. You can still get all my socks. I've got so many sock patterns if you want to make them. Come and show us over in the Hangout over on Facebook. It's facebook.com/groups/Truly Myrtle. Just look up the Hangout, Truly Myrtle Knit and Chat Hangout on Facebook, and come and join us. And come and knit some socks. And I will see you soon. So do lots of knitting like me. And I'll catch you next week. Bye, everybody. Happy knitting. See ya.